The Machinist, American Psycho, Fight Club. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Just a few examples of the products out there that talk about people who let themselves become slaves to their own addictions, whatever those addictions may be. I refer to the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, not the movie Blade Runner, one of which I've been a fan of for years, the other less so. In fact, the other I am not very much in favor of. And that is for another discussion. Some of these projects have more in common, as they were released in the 90s and early 2000s. There's been a mentality among Americans for years to work and be active often, with little rest. A mentality born from Thomas Edison, a man famous for getting us out of the dark, who also happened to be an opportunist and preferred to be active often, even if it meant failing often. He was also an American. His mentality has fed itself into the way people work and allow themselves to live, or if they believe they will discover the next great American inventor, or if they simply believe they need to be active often, or if they believe they need to be active most hours of their lives, or if they feel they need to be active often. For some people, they let themselves get addicted to caffeine and they let themselves be slaves to these addictions. Addictions can be hard to break, which is why some people invent something else to get into to shake these addictions. This can lead to paranoia. If only this explained how people get paranoid. There are more credible theories out there for how paranoia breeds and takes shape, which I won't get into in this brief bit. I will say the shorthand theory is some people don't think they need to think critically enough. They either don't think critically enough, or they choose not to think critically at all. The addiction to caffeine and the mentality to be active often usually leads to problems for some people, especially if you cannot admit you're not doing yourself any favors. There are those people who have the addiction to food and the refusal to exercise more, as much a sign of obsession as addiction. I am almost surprised Chris Nolan hasn't yet delivered with a piece on addiction. Perhaps his characters don't fit the mold of the people who live to meet an end, or feel they live to meet an end, whatever end that may be. On a personal note, I come from a family, some of whom are addicts, some of whom have become so hopelessly addicted it's extremely difficult for them to shake their addictions. At least 3 of my relatives became paranoid. Most addicts, once they find something they like, it's really hard for them to get off of that. They also don't always take the time to make themselves see someone hired to help them focus as much on the negative as on the positive. Going to a therapist and going to a psychiatrist, someone hired to talk to you about something, about just as much about the good as about the bad. When people go to a therapist or a psychiatrist just to focus on all the good things that are happening around them, but not enough to focus on the negative, they're not doing themselves any favors. Going to the therapy, going to psychiatry should be like going to the dentist. You're there just as much to focus on the bad things that have been happening around you, how you responded to them, why you responded that way, as much as you are to focus on a lot of the good. It should be like going to the dentist. Dentists are hired to get the gunk out of your mouth. There's gunk, there's plaque buildup. They're hired to get all that out of your mouth, as well as help keep things clean inside of your mouth. That's their job. With going to therapy and going to psychiatry, it's that, but on a mental level. Anyone who is not going to a therapist to focus as much on the negative as on the positive is not doing themselves any favors. And unfortunately for most addicts are not functional. They don't take the time to see those people to help them focus as much on the negative as well as on the positive. If you can take the time to focus as much on the negative and think about why you responded so strongly to person X at location Z during moment Y, why you responded so strongly to that, as well as to focus on any accomplishments you've made in the past week, month, year, you're not helping yourself at all. Most addicts cannot admit this about themselves. In fact, and there are even some addicts out there who really do not want to get someone involved in their problems. Most addicts even try to hide the fact that they are addicts at all. This, unfortunately, does lead to paranoia. Most addicts are of the mentality, once they find something they like, they cannot let it go. They cannot give it up. Perhaps that's the second reason for such pieces as Fight Club, American Psycho, The Machinist, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. These films aren't just for the sake of art and perhaps commerce. They're also cautionary tales. They try to do for the union workers and the freeloaders what other films, The Matrix, Neon Genesis Evangelion, The Iron Giant, have tried, with some success, to do for their audience. Encourage the question, what is my role? I'm aware The Matrix encouraged more questions than that. For the audiences that can appreciate Fight Club, The Machinist, American Psycho, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep any better, they were left themselves asking similar questions, and hopefully shaken out of the downward spiral they found themselves in.